for more, I'm now joined by Sarakshi Rai, national political reporter for thehill.com. Sarakshi, happy Friday morning to you. So, I mean, at this point, the federal immigration operation in Chicago appears to be imminent here. But NewsNation sources tell us President Trump hasn't made a decision whether to deploy the National Guard yet. What are you tracking?
That's right, Markie. What we know is that the Pentagon has approved the use of the Navy base, right, that's shown on our screens right now on the outskirts of Chicago as basically a staging ground from which the Trump administration can launch operations against undocumented immigrants. Now, we know this for sure. It was just approved yesterday. And what we do know is that there is significant pushback, both from the Chicago community as well as Illinois governor. So what we're seeing is that there's going to be this protracted fight between the Illinois administration as well as the Trump administration just over these ICE operations. Now, while the Trump administration has hinted at the National Guard or active service duty members being stationed there, as he did in Los Angeles over the summer, as well as in Washington, D.C. right now. What we do know is that, this is really still in the works. We heard from Vice President J.D. Vance as well, who said there really wasn't a timeline in place to launch those National Guard troops. So just waiting and watching to see what the Trump administration does, Markie.
Speaking of timeline, what do you make of the timing of this weekend's ICE operations? Because it's happening at the same weekend of Mexican Independence Day festivities. I mean, that's a big deal here in Chicago. Large-scale celebrations, often huge car caravans that cause gridlock. Coincidence or not, Sarakshi?
It might be, Markie, but also what we do know is that really, the Trump administration has been slowly kind of teasing this ICE operation for the last couple of weeks now. We know that it's almost coming up to a month that the National Guard would have been deployed in Washington, D.C. And the president has really gone after cities like Chicago, like New Orleans, where he's talked about the high crime rate, where he's talked about the need for him to launch similar operations like he did in Washington, D.C., and this is really the president asserting broad control to really deploy the military domestically in ways that also have kind of prompted legal challenges from cities. We know that he's also pressured Democratic governors to approve National Guard deployments on their own without the Trump administration stepping in. So really what we're going to see is some of these blue state governors really and the Trump administration kind of clashing in the next couple of weeks, Markie.
And speaking of D.C., the attorney general there has now sued the Trump administration over the deployment of troops on the ground, setting up a big legal saga, of course, just as the White House is set to extend the Guard in our nation's capital through November 30th, we're told. Is that lawsuit going to do anything to deter the president from expanding this operation?
That's right, Mark. With D.C., because it is a federal city, the president does have more broad-ranging powers. But of course, like we saw with L.A., Judge Charles Breyer of the U.S. District Court in San Francisco, basically found that this military deployment in Los Angeles earlier this year violated the federal law that prohibits U.S. troops from participating in civilian law enforcement, right? So in D.C., they've been very clear to make sure that the National Guard is just assisting the police operations in the city. So essentially what we are seeing is that the Trump administration has appealed this LA ruling, and we could potentially see this DC case also be contested in court and not go the Trump administration's way. But they do have, the president has larger overseeing capabilities in Washington, D.C., just given how the city is set up.
Yeah, it's a much different beast there. Well, our crews are here on the ground in Chicago waiting to see and waiting to cover everything that might happen this weekend. Sarakshi Rai, thanks so much as always. Have a good one.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.